Welcome to another weekly market update. This is Sunday, September the 3rd, after the market closed on Friday the 1st. So here's the where we look at the big picture of the stock market, where it's going, bull market, bear market, etc. Because that affects everything: your pension, the economy, your house prices eventually. It's a very important thing to look at. So we don't want you to have your nest egg slashed in half, your pension slashed in half as it was in 2008. So we're keeping an eye on things. And also, we're going to look at the short-term trend to make sure our trades are kind of aligned with the overall market. So here's the S&P 500, which is the benchmark kind of index for everywhere. Everything's kind of follow on from this. And along with the bottom is the dates here. There's a big bull market run began sort of late 2016. It hasn't stopped since. And so, but one thing I looked at last week is we saw this breakdown here. Here's my blue line I've drawn there. This is week by week prices, and it broke below that. And this looked like it was just going to be a pullback. But this is last week, it decided, no, not ready to go down yet. And it's truly extraordinary, resilient action, which is, I always say, anything can happen. What we're trying to look at here is odds. Fascinating, really. It's such an overvalued stock market in the face of so much trouble going on in the world. Just keeps on marching higher. So long-term trend, it's undoubtedly, and I haven't changed saying this actually since last November, it's a bull market. In fact, if you had followed the UPRO system, which is what I teach at my seminars, which is a very simple system that requires just one trade, and you just leave it alone once you get the buy signal. The buy signal for my UPRO system was triggered off around here. And had you used that, you would have now since that was triggered last November, you'll be up approximately 75% just from one trade and doing nothing but just watching it. And that system still has you in it. The system has not yet triggered a sell. So that's less than a year, 75%. So a phenomenal test there my system gave me. Excellent news there. But anyway, let's look at the short-term trend. Here's the daily chart. Again, this is day by day now instead of week by week. These blue lines, these straight ones I've drawn here. These other ones are like an average price over time. That's for 50 days and 200 days. Now I've got to adjust my lines then, because obviously the market keeps on going. So I've tweaked it down a little bit. And here's another line it seems to be bouncing off of. This wasn't a breakdown according to that line. It was just another bounce, and off it goes again. Now this line here is what I've drawn across here. Is I see this now as being a potential break point, because what happens next is key. We've got a left shoulder here. We've got a head here. What could be a right shoulder if it turns around now, and that's called a head and shoulders formation, which is an ominous one. The trick will be if the market can get above this high here around 2480, then that will negate the pattern and it should go higher. But if it turns around now and breaks below this line here around 2430, then that will be a different thing altogether. And that really should be. There's no more trend lines it could really hide behind if it goes down to around 2420, somewhere like that. So that's the level I'm looking at now, and specifically if it can better this recent high here at around 2480, or it just turns around. And it did look like it sold off a little bit on Friday. So that's what's important next. If it keeps on, if it gets a new high again, then onwards the upwards trend goes. But if it doesn't, if it turns around, and then if it breaks below 2430, gets around 2420, then that will certainly be a correction will be on, which is more than overdue, as I keep saying. And it's just going to happen. I'm not talking about a crash. I'm just talking about a healthy correction. It's very unhealthy the longer it goes on, actually. So let's see what happens in the week ahead. But those are the scenarios to look at in terms of the trend. What we can say in the meantime is that the trend is up for now for the short term, but keep a close eye on the numbers and the levels I just described. Speak to you next week.